Here's something. Okay, we're gonna come on down to my recording studio. My name is Mike Wisland. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and stayed there for 27 years. I went to college in Rolla, Missouri to get an electrical engineering degree because my interest was in sort of audio, acoustics. I didn't go to an audio program where they taught you audio engineering, so I had to figure it out for myself. That's an old, about 1915. My parents bought me one of those Radio Shack Electronics toy kits. You have little electronic projects, and I played with that a lot when I was in grade school and junior high. And I think that's probably what influenced me to become an electrical engineer rather than an English major, because I already had sort of a background. I knew what those symbols meant anyway. Go in here. This is where I do my mixing. This is the control room for a recording session. If you look around, I've attempted to connect all of the rooms together where there would be a vocalist, a guitarist. There's a bass guitar room in that other room, and the drummer can be in here. My engineering background, both in physics and electrical engineering, has helped me greatly in becoming an audio recording engineer because I understand what's going on under every knob, under every EQ, every mic pre. Any knob I turn, I actually understand what's going on underneath. Right here is my guitar booth. It's actually an exterior door. And we put the guitar amplifier in there. The guitarist can go in there if he wants, but we can crank it up as loud as you want in there, and it just doesn't disturb anything because we are about 7 feet underground. Let me tell you first how I went into Home Depot to just kind of flesh out the whole idea of my studio. I have, this big window for the drum room, another window for the bass room, a window for the vocal booth, and a window, and these windows here, and then between so there's a lot of windows here. So I went in with very, very rough measurements just to see what the cost would be. And I got a cost figure, and I'm like, okay, we'll tweak it now. And so I came in with more precise window measurements, and I said, well, I don't want the standard Home Depot glass because it just rings like crazy. And I want Soundmaster glass, which sounds like that. It's dead. So when I finally got all the windows ordered and everything and pushed the execute button, they came back with windows that were the wrong size, didn't have Soundmaster glass. My shades upstairs, my wireless windows were wrong measurements, even though they had come in and very precisely measured it. They went back to version 1 of my order, which had just nothing but rough estimates and no Soundmaster glass, and they executed that order. So everything came in the wrong size, no Soundmaster glass. So I had to halt everything, and I had to lay off my construction workers, and they had to go off and do something else for gainful employment, so I lost them. So that screw up from Home Depot actually just cost me almost a year in getting this place put together. And I just kind of got sick of it and lost interest. And it's like I didn't go into this basement for 3 months. I was so angry. And this place almost didn't get built. Right now, let's take a look at the weather in Park City. It is 32 degrees, absolute freezing. It's going to get nice and chilly tonight, a low around 18. Patchy fog. Okay, every other Friday night I come up here to KPCW, and connected to the parking garage is our radio station. This is the on-air DJ booth. That's Heidi manning the station right now. She keeps an eye on it while we're off doing things. Gosh, I got into doing radio in college. I joined the student union board because I became a concert promoter for the college. And I was writing all kinds of ads and stuff I wanted to put on the college radio station. And they were too clumsy to edit them all together the way I wanted to. So I joined the staff of the radio station so that I could use the equipment, edit it, and give them the commercials I needed to broadcast for the concerts that I put on. Let me turn this down. This is how I monitor the station while I'm walking around the station. I have these monitors on to make sure that we're always on the air. If you come over and take a look at this, this is our our incoming signals off of a satellite dish that's up on the hillside here. So we monitored the levels. We're at 15.2, so that's brilliant. If it drops below 11, we got to go up to the satellite dish over here and brush it off because the snow can kill the signal. All right, folks, it's Friday night here, and it's the Wiz all the way to midnight. Don't forget the hotline number. It's 435-655-8255. It's all a request Friday night. Hey, let's take a look. My favorite part about hosting a radio show is getting the people involved. I always am trying to get people to call in with their requests, and I'll play games with them. I'll say, I'm looking for bands or individuals that begin with the letter C. And all of a sudden, the phone board lights up. I get all kinds of people chiming in. And once I get them involved in the show goes by. 5 hours will go by in no time flat. And it's just fun. Once again, 435-655-8255. Let me tell you a story. I was actually in a band for one day. When they played Hollywood, they asked me to be a keyboard player, and that's kind of what I do. It's the Kings, and it was one of my favorite songs growing up in high school. It's called This Beat Goes On, Switching to Glide, and I think you'll love this song if you haven't heard it. Here's the keyboard part. Ready? Gosh, when this CD first came out, I was so thrilled, and it said, write to us at P.O. Box, whatnot. So I did. I wrote him a fan letter. I love your music. I've always loved Switching to Glide, best song ever written, one of my favorites ever. And if you guys ever play live, any parts of outside the polar caps or the Serengeti Desert, I will be there. And so they wrote back, or they called me actually, physically on the phone and said, hey, is Wiz there? And I'm like, yes. And he goes, this is Zero of the Kings. And I'm like, what? Hi. And he goes, hey, we loved your fan letter that you wrote. It made us laugh. We cracked up over it. And so, hey, by the way, are you a keyboard player? Because you mentioned that. Yeah, the Kings with Switching to Glide. Classic song from 1980. Number 1 on the charts in Canada. Number 41 on the charts in America because it didn't hit all the cities at one time. I claim that if it went to number 40, it would have gone on Top 40 Radio and become a number 1 hit here in America.
As we move up Main Street, we find the Red Banjo. This is the best bargain on Main Street. They own the property underneath them.
The thing I like most about Park City is it's not part of Utah. Or at least it doesn't feel like it. This is just an all year round resort town. And you just feel like you're on vacation up here. So I come up here for 5 hours on a Friday night, and I feel like I've gone on a vacation somewhere in Colorado or something. One of my favorite places to get some good pub food is the Wasatch Brew Pub. And that's the top of Main Street. And they actually make their own beer here. They have all the kettles and everything on display. So it's really fun. One fun place to eat. It's just a wonderful mountain town with a really great vibe. The bars, the music venues, the restaurants, the art studios. It's just, it's always on. It's always on. All right, it's time for Wiz on Your Radio. Don't touch that dial. There's Wiz on it. So tonight we're going to have All Request Friday night. It's Fun Friday, of course. Call me on the hotline. 435-655-8255. Let me know what you want to hear. Power in straight to the microphone. You can get a really nasty pop going through your system. So we're going to turn it off. Keep it off. And obviously the microphone does not work. If I charge the circuits with phantom power, going up through the cable on pins 2 and 3, watch what happens. Slowly it charges, and there you have it. You have a nice condenser microphone.
Kind of looks at what we're learning and like adjusts how he teaches, and he throws in a lot of stories and experiences in there.
I like how he's super passionate about what he does, and like anything audio, he has his hand in almost everything, so you can learn a lot from him.
I got into teaching at Utah Valley University through the Runson brothers. They phoned me up one day and said they got a job here at UVU teaching a hands-on audio recording class, and they wanted to bring me on as a co-teacher. And so I said, sure, when does this all go down? They're like, 12 noon. And it was about 11 o'clock in the morning, so I got out of my pajamas and put on some clothing and went and taught my first class. Okay, so you have a heavy north and a heavy south.
You know you're going to learn something, but you don't always know how or what kind of story he's going to tell. It's enjoyable.
I like the way that he tries to cater his classes to what people are actually interested in learning about, while still covering the stuff that he needs to.
He goes into a lot of detail about whatever subject he's teaching, but he's very comical. He does a lot of accents, and it's just it's engaging. So you don't ever feel you never feel bored in the class.
If you could describe Wiz using one word and one word only, what would it be?
Crazy.
Sporadic.
Knowledge.
Rambunctious.
Eccentric.
I love teaching microphone techniques. I love teaching audio restoration. It's so much fun to declick old records and restore them. Make them sound like CDs. When you had this scratchy sounding 78 RPM record, we can clean them up. And it's remarkable what we can get from a scratchy old recording and clean that up and put it out on CD. This is the Spike Jones project. We have a record player, some very expensive needles, tone arms for the record player, and we have a variety of those so that we can play records at different thicknesses, different groove depths. If you follow my meaning there. Anyway, so we got a nice turntable here for transcribing records. Mostly it's for the Spike Jones project, although we do a few other things on the side. Also fired up this year is the Cylinder project. And the Cylinder project is exactly what it sounds like. It's cylinders from the turn of the century. Now these things were made in about 1912 to 1915, making them over 100 years old. Yet I can still play them today because I've restored this machine such that I can wind it up and give it some energy to both turn the cylinder, and then the needle just bounces up and down, comes out the horn out front. There's no electricity involved in this thing at all. Anyway, that's a cylinder, obviously, of Stars and Stripes Forever, and played by marimbas. It's a pretty rare recording, but that's over 100 years old. We've figured out a way now, using silicon mold technology, to actually take an old cylinder and make a copy of it. And so that's what we've done here. And the copy, just on putting silicone mold in there and then putting hard urethane in the mold, I can make an exact copy of one of those cylinders, and we'll just see how that sounds.
Creating corrective high-frequency equalization for the capsule. Better still, this kit will let you fine-tune the roll-off so you can personalize the mic's response to your own preferences.
Okay, and male voice. The circuit in the revised studio project C1 is rolled off in the low frequencies. Okay, tonight is Tuesday Night Mic Club. We got students here working on projects. Most of them are building microphones or learning how to solder. Kelly here is learning how to solder. Get that nice and close so you're ready to fire that in there. And heat up the joint and put it on the tip, and that solder should flow onto that part. And look at that. These students back here are assembling microphones and soldering the parts together. We get these kits online, and then we build them here on Tuesday nights and just have a lot of fun. Try that out.
Lavender soda?
Dry lavender soda. So it's just like, bar of soap.
I don't even smell lavender.
So, here we go. We're trying out a lavender soda, dry lavender soda tonight. It's always soda pop tasting night at Tuesday Night Mic Club. Like Burt.
It's like a faint, bitter ginger ale taste.
Really?
It's good.
Smells like Sprite. I don't have a scent.
Once I got the windows and the doors ordered from Home Depot, we began to knock down the walls we needed to knock down, cut holes for the windows, build up this wall behind me. This was an old bedroom, so we cut it in half and made it a drum room and my main sound room. I got the Home Depot orders in. I brought all the stuff back in. I said, all right, when you're ready to come back, I'm set up and ready to go.
A fancy house, a perfect life. I found a girl who'd be my wife. It turns out she wasn't right for me, so I move along. Couldn't find a date to prom, so I just stayed home with my mom. I could see the disappointment in her eyes. My parents had high hopes for me, but the apple fell far from the tree. Now instead of school, I'm Frenching fries, so I move along. Hey, I move along. Hey, I move along. So I move along. My car wouldn't start today. I tried the bus but couldn't pay. Walked outside as it began to rain. And as I walked, I saw a girl. I watched her dance, I watched her twirl, turning lemons into lemonade. So I move along.
What made me want to be a music producer was I was a musician myself, and I played all of these instruments that I had acquired. And I wanted to record myself, actually. That's it. The first thing I wanted to do was get all these instruments down and play a couple Beatles records, and see if I could duplicate what they'd done. So I had all these things that were swimming around in my head. But I always wanted to record stuff, so I was always interested in taking my clarinet and miking it differently, sticking a mic up the tube, and then running it through a guitar screamer, tube screamer, and distorting it, and then having distorted clarinet on some of my recordings. Bought a 4-track machine and started doing my own 4-track. I learned bass guitar, just bought a bass guitar for $40 and taught myself bass, and so I was bass, clarinet. Then it was very cold one season between the music building and the English building, so I spent my time in the basement with a piano because it was warm in there, and I started out with one note at a time, and then by the end of the semester I had taught myself ragtime piano. I went out to California. I was out there for a business thing. I went into next to Radio Shack, and they had this big old 32-track analog mixer in there for sale. They were just getting rid of it. So I'm like, what do you want for that thing? $800? Done. It fit in my car by 1 inch. Otherwise, I would not have been able to drive home from California. If you're ever going to become a producer, it's really good to know how to play music and different instruments. More instruments, the better. Never, never, ever quit experimenting. Ever. Whenever there's an open track, I throw a mic on it. That's just what I do.
Did a band recently called Queenadilla, which is really was one of the funnest recording sessions I've ever done. What I thought was going to be possibly a 2-week recording ended up being 2 years. Seriously, it was a blues record. I was not expecting a blues record coming at me. They just set up all their equipment, and I said, all right, let's set levels, play me a loud song. And they played me a song called Hollow Man, and it blew me out of the water. I looked back, and I looked at my assistant engineer, and then he was like, I wasn't expecting that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not either. Wow. It was gritty, it was powerful, and the drummer, skinny as a board, 6'2". I mean, you know, she comes in, and she just takes control of that drum kit. And I looked at him and I said, man, we're going to have to mic that differently.
Well, I remember the day we decided we were going to record an album. I decided I was call Wiz because I took some of his classes. And I remember thinking, there's no way that his number is actually 801 Meow Mix, but it is. I don't know if you're allowed to put the number in there, but yeah, so I remember calling him. It was a good time. No, Wiz encourages you to, I guess, think outside the box. I guess, you know, he's a weird guy. Wiz was really good at just taking our ideas and figuring out how to put them on the record, you know. I think what we liked a lot, especially with Queenadilla, was that, you know, we wanted to work in a certain way. We wanted to record all at the same time, and we wanted it raw, and we wanted to keep the mistakes in, and Wiz was very willing to roll with the punches on that. We didn't know how to record an album at all when we came in, but so Wiz really had to carry us through, and we learned a lot for sure, but just trying to figure out how to take what we were as a live band and put it in the studio was definitely a big challenge. There was one guy that said that came up and started talking all out his head about producing us, and he's was talking all about how he wanted to program our drums, and he's telling us like, oh, I can program drums so good, man, you won't even be able to tell that they're programmed. We're like, great, we can make real drums that you won't even be able to tell that they're not programmed. But and you know, that was a good contrast to what Wiz is and what a lot of other people are. Is very willing to give us what we want in that raw, live kind of rock and roll kind of feel. One word? How are you supposed to come up with a one word? Oh, dang. I want to say bag of cats, but that's 3 words. I'd say Wiz is an anomaly.
Okay, we're gonna come on down to my recording studio. And you know, I could choose to have gone into an industrial complex and done a studio outside of my home, but I prefer it to be in my home. It's just a lot easier to stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning and walk upstairs and fall asleep, or just fall asleep in this chair. The vocal booth. Got my vocal mic set up here. And all of the doors in the studio are exterior doors, so when you shut them, they're really quiet. Because anything that keeps out heat keeps out sound. You know, there's all kinds of artwork on my walls here in the studio that are actual instruments. And I implore the bands that are here, you know, sitting in the back room waiting for the bassist to lay down his track. They're out there getting bored. So I put all kinds of things, little toys for them to discover. Sometimes you just can't figure out whether you want an apple or an egg or a plum or a banana. So, I like that banana. Queenadilla absolutely had to use this Chinese gong that I got in Chinatown in San Francisco. And we figured out a place to use it on the record, and by gosh, I can't listen to that record without the Chinese gong. So,
Wiz is the love child of Pee Wee Herman and Dr. Evil. was no one knows how old he is, and only vaguely do people know where he's come from. He's a mystery man. He blows in, and as mysteriously as he comes, he goes.
Is that a razor? Does that just shave my... It's a little beast from I don't know where. Adam Levine. How's it going? Come on. In the shape of a 414 microphone. Yeah, it's odd. Humans bounce up and down at a certain tempo. Are you thinking it? You bastard.